Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. News, culture, sports, politics, and everything else from a theological perspective.
It's all summed up in love.
What should I do? Tell me. God is good. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give me peace. Give me peace.
Put that in your theological pipe and smoke it. Hey, welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. If you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe, comment, like. If you're listening on Spotify or Google or Apple or any of the podcast apps, subscribe, appreciate it. I wanted to start with a story. It's about 8th grade. I was back in 8th grade, and my language arts teacher was going to teach us a book. We had read books up until that point. Usually we'd get the book, we'd take it home, we'd read some chapters, and then we'd do some assignments on it. But this book, she said, hey, we're going to read this book aloud. I'm going to read it to you, and we're going to discuss it. And you can imagine in 8th grade, I was like, oh, come on. I'm going to have my teacher read me a book. I'm not 5 years old. I'm not 6 years old. I can read the book on my own. But her name was Miss Burns, one of my favorite teachers of all time, and she started reading us The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Twain's considered one of the greatest American writers of all time, one of the greatest writers of all time, and she reads us this book, and I was captivated, loved the book. I know that she instilled in me my love of reading just from that lesson, from her reading that book. Loved the book. And still love it to this day. Love The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And it was her reading and her discussion of the book that, again, gave me a really deep love of reading. But it was one of many things that I can look back on and say that it really alerted me to treating people with kindness and respect regardless of who they were. It was the uncensored version that sometimes you have a hard time finding. It used the N-word, but when she read it, she read the N-word out loud, and don't cancel Miss Burns, but then would discuss how Mark Twain didn't believe in slavery. He didn't believe in racism. He was an abolitionist, and he used that story and that language to showcase that, the runaway slave Jim was a person just like Huckleberry Finn, and their relationship as they went down the Mississippi River was incredible to witness as you read the book. And she really used it to drive home the point that, we're all human, we're all created equal. And again, that's one of the things that I can look back at my childhood and as I'm growing up that really, it's not like I was racist coming into 8th grade and then left, and I wasn't. But treating people with respect, not worrying about the color of one's skin, judging people by the content of their character. Miss Burns really did a great job of teaching that book and driving that point home. And again, from a Christian perspective, a theological perspective, we believe that everyone, every man, woman, child, whoever you are, you're created in the image of God, the Imago Dei, and we're all created in His image. So racism is wrong, and classism is wrong, and sexism is wrong. We're all, life is a gift, and we need to treat each other that way. So it's kind of a bummer that I read again, and I've read this before, but just recently, like last week, it's the Burbank Unified School District in California. They decided that they were going to ban some books, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. There's a couple other Of Mice and Men, The K, and then Roll of Thunder, Hear Me Cry, or Hear My Cry. And they're banning at least the first two because they use the N-word, and it's a bad word. You shouldn't use it. I understand, but I'm against banning books, and I'm especially against banning books that can be used to bring people together. And it's just, I don't think we should be banning things on any level. I'm sort of a First Amendment absolutist. You have a right to say stupid things, and I have a right to respond. I don't think that Mark Twain's book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, is ban-worthy. In fact, I think it's the exact opposite. If you're wanting to bring people together, if you're wanting to teach white people not to be racist, which I'm not a critical race theory proponent. In fact, I think it's an evil theory. But if that's the case, this book should be on the forefront of everyone's reading list. And a few episodes ago, I made a podcast about how sometimes smart people do really stupid things. And I think this is an example. You have a school district, and it's not just Burbank, California in this article. There's a bunch of articles, but Mississippi, Virginia, California, there's places all over the country where school districts are banning books like this, which shouldn't be banned, that they should be put at the forefront to teach people. And I just don't think that's a smart thing. And again, these are educators, right? These are the people that we entrust to teach our children, and they're banning things. And I don't know where the line is. I know there's probably a line somewhere where I say, okay, we can not allow this in our schools, but it's not Huckleberry Finn. It's not Of Mice and Men. It's not To Kill a Mockingbird. Again, To Kill a Mockingbird and Huckleberry Finn teach the exact opposite of the reason why they're banning it. And so I just, when it comes to banning things, don't. There's professors on Twitter, and of course they're from like Berkeley and different really liberal colleges, and these are really, really progressive people who are saying, hey, take these books that teach things that we don't like and let's go burn them. And they're talking more about issues like abortion or transgender issues, and there's an author that wrote a book that they didn't like, so they're saying let's go buy copies up and go burn it. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that there were other people in history who like to burn things, burn books that they didn't agree with. Let's not go down that path. And again, especially when it comes like this, again, you could probably talk me into a certain book somewhere. Maybe we should ban it, we should burn it. I wouldn't go burning, but not Huckleberry Finn, especially because of the place it holds in my heart of Miss Burns teaching it to me and teaching it to us, and instilling a love of reading that I have, but also just treating people with kindness, and recognizing that we're all human. We're all created in God's image, and we should remember that. And I think it's a good thing to remember, again, in today's climate, when it comes to whatever issue you deal with, whether it's something controversial or just something as simple as politics. Just because someone has a different political point of view doesn't make them less of a human being, doesn't make them created lesser than God's image, and I think we can remember that. So you can go look it up. You read the articles about the books being burned and why. And again, I get it. I just think it's wrong, and I think that too often smart people are making dumb decisions because, in the hands of a good teacher, Huckleberry Finn can be life-changing, and it wasn't my case, and it should be in everyone's case because it's that good of a book, and we should be banning books. So I don't know if that's really a theological pipe moment. Maybe the Imago Dei thing, where we're all created in God's image. That's something that we can think about when it comes to how we treat people and how we look at people. And racism is wrong, sexism is wrong, classism is wrong. We're all created in God's image, and we all are sinners and fall short of the glory of God, and that's why we need Jesus. And maybe that's a podcast for another time. But yeah, when you hear people banning things, and it's real easy sometimes if it's your side. You're like, yeah, we shouldn't allow so-and-so to speak on our campus because he's a conservative or he's a liberal. No, let him speak. Again, there's a line somewhere, but it's not where most people draw the line. And I think we need to be more about freedom of ideas as well, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of assembly, that kind of stuff. But we should have freedom and allow, good ideas to be elevated and bad ideas to be pushed down, but not banned. They'll just make their way away, naturally and stuff like that. So, but again, when I read this about Huckleberry Finn, it just kind of like stabbed me in the heart, hurt me. Don't ban Huckleberry Finn. It's a great story. So put that in your theological pipe and smoke it, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.
Well,